Hello, and welcome back to the Live Label Free podcast. I'm your host, of course, Livia Sarah, and I am so excited to be joined today by Maddie. Is that what we're gonna name you?
Yeah, I'm
Okay,
happy with that.
perfect.
Yeah,
Maddie, do you want to share? Well, first of all, welcome to the podcast.
thank you.
So excited to talk to you. Do you want to share with our audience who you are, kind of, and what you're up to in your life? Yeah,
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Oh, I'm so excited to be here as well. Yeah, we were
me
just
too.
saying how like surreal it is to see each other sort of face to face. Yeah, so I'm Maddie. I'm currently at university studying for my master's in psychology and um, really enjoying what I'm learning and my process. And alongside that, I'm also creating content online about my lived experience with psychology and my diagnoses, and just ultimately hoping that I can help educate and make people feel more comfortable in themselves and their identity. Yeah.
That's beautiful. I mean, and that comes from a pure heart of gold, which is so meta because, as I'm sure you know, one of the autism symbols is gold. And by the way, if you are not following Maddie online, Maddie, can you just drop your handle? Because your content is literally the reason why I was like, oh my gosh, she needs to come on the podcast. And some of your comments also on like, especially I remember I'll never forget that post on my like adaptive eating spectrum. And you left this like super long comment about how it made so much sense and it was so much more helpful than the pathologizing view. And I was like, okay, this girl, like we're on the same page. And you started your account like a year ago, maybe? I don't even like not even that long ago. And you documented your entire journey of solo anorexia recovery. And that is just cap off, like whatever they say, because that is fucking hard. Um and you are so far on your discovery journey. So yeah, do you want to share your handle name and kind of also like what led you to start that account in the first place, like the backstory?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, thank you. It really means a lot that it's that you identify with it so much, because that's like really my main goal. So yeah, you can find me on Instagram and TikTok, and my handle is love.madeleine underscore. Yeah, and
And
I guess
I'll leave that in the show notes as well because people have different spellings and stuff. And I'm not on TikTok, so I only know you from Instagram.
yeah, yeah. So I guess I started. Yeah, I've been on TikTok a little longer, for maybe 3 years, but it was really,
Really?
yeah,
Wow. That's
it
funny.
yeah, it didn't really like kick off as much. I think my Instagram was when I really did start like the solo like recovery journey, and that was about a year ago. Yeah, and that's
Mhm,
when I really was like, wow, this feels like I'm really helping people and helping myself. Yeah.
mhm. So, what led you to, can you kind of share your story just for anyone listening? Because I'm sure that so many people are going to relate of like your just like the eating disorder history and kind of your other diagnoses. I know like OCD and discovering the autism piece recently. Like, yeah, you can kind of take that in whatever way you want to.
Yeah, of course. I guess like in my head, like it follows a very distinct timeline of events. So I guess,
Give us the timeline.
yeah, why not? So September 2023, I was in a very physically ill place. It was when I finally sort of realized, like, oh my gosh, I'm dealing with something's going on here, something the sort of coping patterns I'd used around food and eating for many years, and suddenly you get to that place where it catches up with you and you think, I cannot be in this life anymore. And
Hmm.
that's when I sought treatment for my eating disorder. At the time, I was diagnosed with ARFID, but I felt that didn't really fit. I was thinking more orthorexia due to like how like clean eating,
Hmm.
but that doesn't exist as like a formal diagnosis in the UK. So we settled on this
Yeah.
like anorexia diagnosis. Um,
And if I may interrupt, why did they diagnose you with ARFID if it was like
mm,
ortho? Yeah, I'm super curious because even that diagnosis in and of itself, like, is kind of ready for me planting like some autism seeds without knowing it.
yeah, definitely. I think that's why, I mean, if I hadn't have questioned it, I think I still would have had that ARFID label now.
Uh-huh.
And at the time, no one sort of said, no one explored that idea like, oh, have you ever considered an autism diagnosis? I think at the time they were very much looking at my rigidity and like need for this very set way of eating and calling it ARFID. But anorexia came in a bit later because I honestly think they just didn't know where to like put me because I fit into so many boxes. They were
Yep.
trying to squeeze me into one. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's so funny you use that word boxes because that is
Mm.
literally like a slide in my Artistically ED Free Academy when I'm like presenting the adaptive eating spectrum. I'm like, we are people, the professionals, the clinicians are trying to put us into boxes. I mean, the whole DSM is
Mm.
based on boxes, and that's why you don't live label free because humans, we you can't put us into a box because we are energy. Like you can't put energy into a box just like you can't put light into a box. And this problem, and I say like neurodivergent people, when we struggle with food, when we struggle with anything really, we run into these walls in the mental health care system because they're trying to put us into boxes that we'll never fit into
Mm.
because we can fit part of us can fit they can make a way to fit part of us into all of the boxes and then they're like we don't know what to do with you because you're too complex, like we don't like one professional, we only specialize in anxiety, so better to go over there, they specialize in eating disorders. Oh, well, you also have OCD, better to go over there first. And it's like, and then in Dutch, we have this expression, you fall between shore and ship. Basically, you're dumped in the middle of the fucking
Yeah,
ocean.
that's exactly how it feels. You're just in the ocean with no life ring, just like swimming around.
Right.
Like, yeah.
And exactly that what you just said, no life ring, because that is exactly the metaphor that I say that's what an eating disorder is.
Mm.
It's the life ring. It's I don't know how to swim in this fucked up world. I don't trust anyone. I feel so unsafe. So I'm going to hold on to this one thing that, yeah, it's making me really anxious and it's making me stressed. And there's this like mean little voice in my head all the time telling me what to do. But at least I feel safe.
Yeah.
At least I have a sense of autonomy. And I use that word autonomy and safety very consciously because eating disorders are not about control.
Yes.
That word just, oh my God. Um, Oh yeah, so again about the adaptive eating spectrum, like just like autism is a spectrum, and you can't say like someone is more autistic or less autistic or high functioning or low functioning. Like it's all a spectrum, and we fall on that spectrum, and we can fall on different points at that spectrum at the same time. Like because again, we are everything. We are the universe, as I like to say. So that's the where I love that model so much is not only does it remove any kind of pathology of like, oh, you're disordered. No, you are adaptive, and we can support you into adapting into a healthier version of you. And you can only do that when you see the person in front of you not as, oh, they're in this box, but you see them as a person, right?
Yeah. Definitely. Yeah. I really sort of identify with that spectrum because yeah, some days even fluctuates within people. Like some days you'll be really mastering your diagnoses and you'll be moving through the world feeling so at ease with everything. And then the next day I'll be having a breakdown because I'm like, why am I not like everyone else? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So you said you were initially diagnosed with
Mm.
ARFID and then it was adjusted to anorexia and you felt they were more orthorexia and OCD based. And I know that on your channel, I'm gonna call it on your account, you talk a lot about OCD, and I
Mm.
would really like to dive into this because that label OCD is like just so common, like 99.9% common in people I work with and I speak to who are neurodivergent and struggle with eating disorders, and not just anorexia, but often binge eating. I mean, OCD shows up a lot in neurodivergent clients with binge eating as well. And that's kind of like another point on the adaptive eating spectrum, but they're all kind of rooted in the same thing of like, I don't feel safe. I need something to hold on to. I need something to numb me. I need an escape. So can you kind of share like how this like your autism kind of discovery and how that kind of has reframed the way that you've looked at like these diagnoses like anorexia slash orthorexia and
Mm.
OCD specifically?
Yeah, of course. I think, um, again, as we were just saying, like, you go into, oh, I went into eating disorder treatment for my anorexia in the beginning of 2024. And it was, it's hard for everyone, but it
Mhm.
felt like this monumental mountain. I was going through it, but not really getting better. And
Yeah.
I kept saying to my clinician, like, there's something more that we're not getting to the root of. And
Mhm.
I feel like it's beginning to manifest in these compulsive behaviors and OCD. So I was passed on to another service. Yeah, just keep being passed between
Yeah.
people. Yeah. And it was at that point when I started getting my OCD sort of with therapy and treatment that my clinician, he was the best person I'd ever seen. He was
Mhm.
amazing. But he raised this question like, a lot of the things you're describing, they could be OCD, they could be your eating disorder, but have you ever considered that they might be autism? And at that point, when someone says those words to you, it suddenly, like, everything falls into place and you think,
Yeah.
oh my god, is this like what I've been going through my whole life? And suddenly being able to have not even that label, but just that understanding of what you've been through, it's so important.
Exactly. Yeah, because it isn't about the label. Like I always say, tell because I had someone actually who did my academy, a few last year. She was getting assessed for autism, and she sent me a WhatsApp, and she was so nervous, and she was like, if I'm not autistic, like I don't fit into your community anymore, and I can't even talk to you anymore because I'm an imposter and I'm a fraud. And I was kind of telling her like just if we just look at the label autism, I'm writing this what I call my motherfucker book at the moment. It's called Anorexia Autistica. It's over 100,000 words,
Wow.
and I go through the entire history of both autism and anorexia and like their overlaps and like how they're intertwined. And it's super fascinating because like some of the same people are like played a role in both of these diagnoses, and they were oppositely gendered, right? Which is because autism was like the boy thing and anorexia was the girl thing.
Oh,
So
that's super interesting. Yeah.
yes, so super, and but the reason for the gendering is like actually like often due to like only one person. It's kind of ridiculous. So
Hmm.
anyways, why am I saying? Oh yeah, because originally the term autism was coined in 1911 by a Swiss psychiatrist, and it was it was used to characterize schizophrenia. This guy Eugen Bleuler, I always say rip me when I record the audiobook. Eugen Bleuler, whatever that is. He characterized schizophrenia with four A's. So there was like ambivalent emotions, like lack of affect, autism, which was like he used to describe like a withdrawal from reality into like a fantasy land. And that's kind of where autism came from. So then like later in like 1920s, this woman who was erased from history because she was Jewish and she was a woman.
Oh,
Um,
of course.
yep, she described autism in both boys and girls, but her papers weren't translated until like very recently, and she called these kids autistic schizoid psychopathy.
Oh my god.
and and it was like a, but she knew like that like this isn't schizoid, so she like used the term autism, she, like borrowing it, like they're withdrawing, but she didn't really understand why, I guess.
Yeah.
And then later in like 1930s, a Jewish couple described like obsessive interests,
Mm.
like different like communication, like different speech, like don't make eye contact. But they never used the word autistic, so they were also erased from history. And then the main two people that we remember who have literally in like many historical papers have been termed as like the godfathers of autism are Hans Asperger and Leo Kanner. And oh my God, I'm getting way too like into my book right now, but I like know this history like the back of my hand now. But Hans Asperger working in Vienna and Leo Kanner was working in America, and they published their papers on autism like within a year of each other. And like historians have always been like, oh, what an uncanny coincidence, but it's actually no coincidence at all because George Frankl and Annie Weiss, who were the Jewish couple who like described autism, they were working in Asperger's clinic in Vienna. But because of World War II, they had to flee. And where did Frankl end up working? With Leo Kanner. Um, so both men, uh, they quote verbatim so many of Frankel and Weiss's observations and never cited them. So anyways, as you can tell, I'm like super fascinated by all,
Yeah.
but like this is all in the book. And I think it's just so interesting to like know where this whole autism even comes from.
Mm.
And the only reason it became gendered as like a boy's condition was because Leo Kanner and Hans Asperger in their seminal papers only, well, by the way, Leo Kanner also described girls, so I don't know where the whole boy stereotype came from. And then Hans Asperger writes in his paper, um, he puts a question mark next to the girls, and like while we have never seen the fully, I'm literally quoting him, we have never seen the fully fledged picture of autism in girls, we have seen marked characteristics in the mothers of the boys. And then he says like it may be that like autism only becomes evident after puberty in girls, or but just we just don't know. Like he literally just says we just don't know. And I thought that I actually include that quote in the book because I think, and then I go on like a my own interpretation of like, I think girls are so much more highly masking often that yeah, it does become evident only after
Yeah.
puberty because then we get eating disorders because we don't want to go through puberty, right? And that's again, you know, where all these manifestations of the autism, such as OCD, come in. Um, and in my book Rainbow Girl, I even have a quote that I that my therapist attributed everything I did to OCD. And I literally write, if we had known about autism back then, our conversations might have been drastically different.
Oh my God, yeah.
Um, so I know that I did this classic autistic like special interest talking your head off monologuing, but I think it's so interesting. But the reason I share this was because going back to the label thing, like the label, literally, if you were diagnosed with autism 100 years ago, you'd be fucking schizophrenic. So like the label doesn't mean anything, but it's about the understanding it gives you. And I think that is what any label, when used with intention, can give us. But it's all again about why are you using the label? Are you coming from a place of like pathology, like we need to put this person into a box so we can treat them, so we can fix them? That is not how we use labels around here because
Mm.
you're not broken, you don't need to be fixed. But when you come at it from a place of, oh, like could autism explain why you feel this way? Well, now you can communicate that to other people so they can accommodate you and you can accommodate yourself and you can connect with other people who are autistic so you can learn how they accommodate themselves so you can like that is a totally different conversation.
Definitely.
Um so yeah, I guess since this amazing clinician said like might it be autism? Like what was kind of the how did your journey shift from that moment onwards? Because I think that is really interesting.
Mm. That was the point where I suddenly stopped, flailing around in like the waters in between all these sort of services, and I realized like, oh yeah, that maybe okay, so I do have eating issues and I do have OCD and I do have these like things that are holding me back, but maybe autism is underlying that, and if I embrace it, then maybe I can live a good life. And I
Maybe
think,
I can live a good life.
yeah,
Oh my God. It's like a little twinkle of hope. Maybe I can live
yeah,
a good life. Yeah.
it was that little twinkle of hope. And I think at the same sort of time that this was coming up for me, I saw your page and I was like, oh my God, there's other people who have gone
Yeah.
through the exact same thing and have had the exact same experience. And they are also sort of using their diagnoses of autism to try and like harness that power and get them to a better place. And
Yeah.
it was at that point I realized like, oh wow, no, I can do this, but it's going to have to be by my rules, by my way. It's
Yes. I
not going
need
to
autonomy. Yep.
exactly. It's not going to be some therapist like pushing a like meal plan on me that I cannot work with. It's going to be through me setting my own rules and getting through it in my own way. Yeah.
Yes, and I'm actually just writing some stuff down because it's like my brain is doing the bouncy ball thing, so it's like
Yeah.
we're just gonna have all these thoughts and make you crazy in your head. So I wrote down embracing autism, harnessing traits, setting my own rules. I want to start with embracing autism because I know that at least a lot of parents that I work with who have like a lot younger, like my younger I don't often work directly with their kids until like later on, until they feel safe enough to join the conversation. But a lot of the parents I work with who have kids who are like 12, 13, 14, they kind of reject the autism diagnosis. Like, and I often think it's because they don't want another label. Like their soul knows they are not any kind of label, and they've already been labeled with anorexia and OCD and this and that. They don't want another pathology placed on them. Um, so my work with the parents is often about like explaining to them that the autism like discovery is a discovery process in and of itself of like them needing to understand when they are ready that autism is not a pathology but that it's a different way of being and experiencing, which brings us, yeah, which brings me to the question of like embracing autism. Like what does that look like for you? Because I think before you can embrace anything you need to accept that this is a part of who you are, right? Like we can't embrace anything we're actively resisting. And you obviously were at a place where you were like, oh my gosh, this explains everything. Yeah, because and that was kind of the same for me. Like I remember my first client, I've told this story on the podcast so many times, and I talk about it in my book about how I didn't know I was autistic when I actually was like basically recovered from my eating disorder. Like I did that whole process without knowing. And that's why I like to say I gaslit myself through treatment because everything that was the eating disorder talking, I believed it. I was like, oh, must be, right? And my first client was autistic and she was kind of sharing her story with me and I was like, holy shit. Like and then I like obviously as an autistic person does, I researched everything about
Yeah, of
autism
course.
and I was like, yep, that's me. That this is literally describing my entire life. And it was I can't even begin to explain the like conflicting emotion that I initially experienced of like such profound relief and at the same time just also like anger and frustration of like all these years, why did no one mention this to me? And that was like its whole entire own grieving journey.
Yeah.
um
Oh my God. Yeah.
but now I understand that like things are really, really difficult for me and I get stressed and anxious so easily when like I'm not accommodated. and that makes life really, really hard. And at the same time, I can do things and I can say things and I can feel things and I can see things that no one else can, like in my direct environment, because they're not autistic. And in
Yeah.
that way, like that allows me to see it as like autism, I mean this from the bottom of my heart, and like the way that I think and am is the reason why I literally change people's lives. And like not to gloat here, but like why I am such a like profound writer is because I have that like drive in me of like
Yeah.
I'm gonna do this and nothing can stop me. So that is what for me like embracing autism looks like. It's like was like being really grateful, I think, and embracing like my strengths, and at the same time, like not shaming and judging myself anymore for the difficulties and actually accommodating the difficulties. Did I say that right? Like accommodating myself
Yeah.
when things are difficult. So
Yeah.
I'm curious for you if you can maybe give some like tangible examples of like what does embracing autism look like specifically like, and how did that look like on your solo anorexia recovery journey?
Definitely. Yeah, I think I so relate to what you're speaking about, sort of the that almost like anger and that grief at looking back on your life, like, oh, if only, all those times where people's like, oh, she's shy, or oh, she's
Yeah.
the gifted child. If
Oh
only at
gosh, the
those
gifted one.
the
Yep.
gifted one.
So
Yeah,
much potential. It's like, yeah, you don't know how overwhelming that is.
exactly. If all those times that we'd been told that, someone had gone,
Yeah.
autism. But so yeah, I think as you say, part of the acceptance and that embracing it is looking back on your past and saying, actually, there were bad things, but without those bad times, and I couldn't have what I have now. And
Yeah.
like you were saying, it's about sort of thinking, I'm like, this makes me an amazing person. I was able to come to university, get top grades. I can really push myself and use that
Yeah.
to make, yeah, help people, and that is my why, and that is why I want to embrace this diagnosis. And I
Yeah.
think in my recovery, embracing that diagnosis looked like, okay, so I am really rigid and I
Hmm.
do hate change to routine,
Hmm.
but maybe we can use that to our advantage. Like, okay, so because I'm really rigid, I'm going to write my own meal plan. I'm going to write, yeah, and
Yeah.
I can stick to that. Or I need, I need numbers. I need
Yeah.
like set routines. So I shall set my own like times that I eat, and my own something I took from your page was setting that extremely high like calorie target, so you have
Yes.
like, a tangible thing to aim for,
Yeah.
but it's still within like the realms of recovery. So yeah, embracing it just meant saying, yes, this is who I am, this is what I need, and this is what I'm going to do to make myself like be able to function and achieve it to the best of my ability. Yeah.
I love that. And something, I don't know if this is kind of like, well, I'm just gonna be honest, something that a lot of people know is that I kind of like to mock the ED recovery
Yeah.
community, as I say, with all their rules and their you have to smash the skill, you have to stop counting
Mm,
calories, you have to do this, you have to do that. It's like, it's this, I don't even know the word, but it's like a cult almost. It's like,
yeah.
this is what you have to do if you want to be in recovery, but like that's that whole like toxicity of the ED recovery community, like, and I know you know what I mean.
I
It's like
do.
that there's only this way to do it.
Mm,
That is like the sole reason I wrote How to Get Out of Quasi Recovery, because that literally is what kept me stuck, like in the recovery identity. And that's why I don't like this word recovery, because I constantly felt like, oh, but I need to stick to schedules. I need predictability. I can't say yes to like last minute ice cream plans. Like I need to know ahead of time. And that made me feel like I was doing recovery wrong. Um,
mm,
in air quotes for anyone who's not watching the video. And that is such a common experience for neurodivergent people because the truth is that our version of food freedom, whatever that means, yeah, whatever that means, is it's going to mean something different for each individual. And that is why, I use this word discovery a lot, because no one can tell you preemptively, like, this is what your version of food freedom is going to look like. That is something you have to discover for yourself. And that's why I'm never going to go because I get a lot of people asking me, like, how do you eat? Like, what does recovery look like for you? And I can't give them an answer, not because I'm like secretive, but because I that is my experience. Like, and I can share my experience, but I'm not going to say this is the autistic way of food freedom because that would be false. I would just be preaching something that doesn't apply to a lot of people that I'm speaking to. Um, so where was I going with this? This is what my brain always does. I'm so excited going down this pathway. Um, oh yeah, about the ED recovery community. Um, are there certain, let's say, eating recovery rules that did not work for you that you discovered, like, actually, like, this is gonna go out the window, like, this is not how I work? Because I think that a lot of people I know that listen to this are kind of in that boat of like they're trying to do recovery, but they keep feeling like a failure. And I think when you can let go of some of those rules that you think you should do to be properly recovering from an eating disorder, when you can let that go, just like all of the labels, that's when you can truly start creating freedom for yourself. So, yeah, so again, long story short, the question is, are there certain like recovery strategies or I think like popular recovery narratives that you've kind of actually discovered like, no, that doesn't work for me?
I think I can definitely relate to that. I think when I was in that very, structured treatment under the like strict
Mm-hmm.
um, guidance of the clinician, there were so many times where I was told like, oh, because I'm not doing this and I'm not reaching their weight target quickly enough, and because I'm not pushing myself, you are made to feel like you are failing, and they, especially
Yeah.
when they threaten, they're like, oh, you're too complex and we're gonna kick you
Yeah.
out. And I think one of the biggest things that I remember is that, yeah, was the giving up the weighing food and the calorie counting,
Mm-hmm.
because I can remember it to this day when I first started counting, because I just had this thought pop into my head and I was like, but how do I know what is an adequate portion and what is going
Yeah.
into food? How does everyone else eat every day without like
Yeah.
thinking about it? How am I supposed to survive if I don't know exactly what I'm eating and exactly what the portion is?
Right.
Um, so yeah, when you start treatment, that's the first thing they kick out the window. But actually, it just made me feel so much more overwhelmed by the idea that not only now do I have to eat what someone else is telling me to,
Mm-hmm.
and I have no idea if what I'm eating is quote unquote enough to fuel my body, and I had no, again, autonomy over being able to visualize that food in that portion. And so for me, when I sort of decided, right, this is going to be like my solo journey, and like at the time I was like seeing a therapist for OCD, so
Mm-hmm.
I did have that support, but I was doing the eating recovery part more like, yeah, solo. The
Mm-hmm.
first thing I did was bring back those scales, bring back the calorie
Yeah.
counter,
I
because
love this. Yeah, because that was
yeah,
the same for me too. Yeah.
definitely.
And I do just want to say, like, for anyone listening, that's probably like, because I know that our, especially the autistic brains, like to, be 10 steps ahead. It's like, oh, does that mean like I have to be calorie counting and using a food scale for the rest of my life? No.
No.
Because as you, like, for me, I used a food scale and I calorie counted and I like entered everything because I needed the numbers, I needed that certainty to feel safe. But
Mm.
like as you discover who you are and you can slowly start to move away from needing to use food as a coping mechanism, what that comes with is you also don't need the numbers to feel safe anymore.
Definitely.
Like when I remember when I began writing my books, I was so obsessive about like my daily word count, which is so funny because it's the exact same thing, right?
Yeah.
And if I didn't hit my like daily word target, I felt like I'd failed and I was not a qualified writer. And all these other authors like say that you should write at least 1,000 words a day, and I can't do it. And like now I'm like I just write what I write, and I write until I want to write, and then I stop when I don't. And yeah, sometimes I write 300 words and sometimes I write 2,000, but like it doesn't and by the way, that's not a metaphor for calories because no one should be eating 300 calories a day. Or 2,000 if I'm honest. I probably like way more than that.
Me too.
Um but like you get to a point where you begin to build that self-trust and like
Mm.
that, as you say, with like the autism like being like the thing that fell into place for you, and being, yeah, I don't know if I said that right, but you get what I mean. And before the call you said things before we started doing, why can I not talk? My brain is moving way too fast. Before we hit recording, you said how things show up in your life at like precisely the aligned time. Um, I think the more you can trust that, the more you can also begin to trust. Like, I will come to a point where I hate the word ready, but where it feels more aligned to me to not use calorie counting and not use a food scale, or at least for everything, right? Because
Yeah.
it's not going to be okay, tomorrow I'm not going to, if you're weighing food, you're not going to tomorrow just suddenly not weigh food. That's not how it works. But like when you can go out and travel and be like, I don't need to bring my food scale to this restaurant. And initially it's going to feel so anxiety provoking.
Yeah.
And then you do it and you're like, I did it. And then you do it another time and you did it. And then you do it over and over and over again. And that's exactly like you experience, I know, with like OCD treatment. It's like
Yeah.
the more times you do it, you're not gonna need the food scale anymore next time you go to a restaurant because your brain is like, what? Like we've done it without it all these times.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. I think. Yeah. I agree. I think one of the things my parents were worried about when I started weighing food and like using the calorie counter again, they were like, "Well, when are you going to stop? Is this going to be the rest of your life now, just weighing food?"
Yeah.
But actually, you're right. When you build that safety and you become so much more comfortable in your identity and your body has more evidence that you are safe and that you are doing what's right for you, you do feel at a place to stop. Like when I moved to university in September, um, I was suddenly a very difficult position living in a flat with new people, new environment, new timetable, quite
Mm-hmm.
overwhelming for anyone. But I felt so secure in my identity and so safe
Mm-hmm.
in my body that I completely like gave up counting calories and using the food scale on that first day because I knew that
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to. I mean, part of it was masking because I was like, I don't feel ready to share this with my flatmates yet about who I am and like why
Yeah.
I'm weighing my bread.
Right.
Um, but also part of it was that, I feel safe, even though it's a new environment, I do feel safe now because I am so like connected with who I am that um, I don't need to control food in this way at this point. Yeah.
And I think it's super interesting that for you, like the change of an environment was the trigger, because that's often something I've
Mm.
experienced for myself too, is like when my nervous system is in a certain state and then I go somewhere else, it's like I have a whole new life. And I'm like, I can make any kind of new decision now too. Um yeah, so I think in that regard, like again, your environment is a huge factor in the discovery journey. And that's why again it always comes back to safety. Like you have to be in a, including like within yourself, as you said, like yeah, you were in a new environment but you felt so safe and grounded within this identity that you had chosen to create. You had full autonomy. You were aware that you had full autonomy over your decision. And that when we step out of victimhood, that's when we can make these decisions that feel aligned. But again, this is why I don't like this whole eating disorder label terminology, is like saying like I am someone who has an eating disorder, I am anorexic, whatever it is. Like as long as you believe that is who you are, you're gonna be the victim of this label that you've placed on yourself, that you, but when you say I am me, and thus I get to choose, I get to be whoever I want to be, and that is my journey, that is my decision. You step out of that victimhood, you take responsibility, you can literally do whatever you want in your life. I know that
Yeah,
sounds radical, but it's true.
it is true. At any point, you can choose to make a change, and I know that's hard for people with autism. It's hard to imagine like making that change, but once you allow yourself to have that autonomy and to realize like even though things are changing, you are the master of that change. It suddenly becomes so much easier and so much more inspiring to think that you can build a life that you want and that's worth living. Yeah.
Exactly, exactly. And I think with on the change part, like I think that's a big misconception about autism, is like autistic people hate change. We only hate change that has been inflicted upon us without our permission and not on our timeline. But when we are the initiators of the change and we have autonomy, I mean, I'm changing all the
Yeah.
time, but because I'm deciding to change, it's fine.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, we are coming up on time here. And honestly, this whole conversation has been so just like resonant. And I'm just so grateful for everything you shared, because I think that anyone listening, well, not anyone, but like most people listening to this, because again, we don't want to generalize, are just gonna resonate with, I think, what both of us have said. And we've helped them feel a little less alone, which is, of
Yeah.
course, our whole intention. So if people want to connect with you, and reach out maybe to you, and follow your discovery journey and see how far you've come, if you scroll all the way back to your first Instagram post, and I don't even know anything about TikTok, so you can find her there too, if you as a listener are on TikTok. I don't go on TikTok because I call it the black hole of doom. Like you
Oh,
can just, it just never ends.
I
Like
feel
it's
you.
even
Yeah.
worse than Instagram. I have someone to help me now manage my Instagram. Like I'm not even on there anymore. Only for the DMs. So yeah, so where can, I know you said at the beginning, but where can people find you and everything that you're all about?
Yeah, so you can again find me on the Black Hole of Doom on TikTok. And same, like I only really go on there to post my videos and then I'm out
Then you
because
have to
like
leave, yeah.
yeah, because I'm like, whoa, I can feel my brain cells melting when I'm on here.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm on TikTok and I'm on Instagram, both under the handle at love.madeleine underscore. Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah, and I'll leave those links in the show notes as well. And Maddie, is there anything, I always like to ask at the end, like if the listener takes away one like main idea from this whole episode, like one uh headline, so to speak, what would it be?
So yeah, I would say it's being able to embrace who you are, not just now, but being able to look at your past and accept it and feel so loving of everything about you and your experiences. I think if you can do that, then you're gonna go far in life because a lot of people only come to realize that in their older age, in their sort of retirement, when they're looking back on how good life was. But if you can do that now, I think whatever you go through, you're gonna be so secure in your identity and in yourself that you can overcome whatever you're going through. Yeah.
I love that. I mean, I could quote that and put it in my book. No,
Oh,
seriously, I love that. And because it's so true. Like love, that you use the word love, like when you can look back at your past with love, in the end, love, it's what Martin Luther King said. I mean, hate does not drive out hate, only love does that. And that's I honestly think that's the exact same thing with the whole eating disorder. You don't drive it out by seeing the ED as the villain. You must challenge the eating disorder. No, wow, this came into your life because you tried to feel safe. You were so adaptive. And now, through love, let's help you adapt into an aligned identity. So, thank you, everyone, so much for listening. Thank you, Maddie, for sharing your
Oh,
story. Everyone, be sure to go follow her. I know I've said it a million times, but do like her story. It's just so inspiring, and I'm so grateful that we finally made
oh.
this work because we have been planning this for like probably a year.
Yeah.
So I never know how to end these episodes, so I always just say bye, and then you can say bye, and then we hit stop recording, and Maddie stay on.
Okay.
Okay, bye.
Bye. It's been so lovely to be here. Yeah.